Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be doing an interactive piece in my journal, and this is directly inspired by a piece done by JLB Creative on his YouTube channel. So I do encourage you to check it out because his is obviously so much more in detail, and he has actually drawn his himself. I'm using some inspiration and using some collage to do my piece today. So I had these two pages in my Use It Up journal, which had this sort of beautiful lime green colour. So I decided once I saw James's page with the Tinkerbell on it that I really want to have a go, and this is a perfect page to do it in. So I'm going in with my favourite stencils that I've been using lots and lots of masks, which are these Dina Wakley Botanicals. And you'll see I've put out lots and lots of different green colours and some neutrals in there as well. And I'm sort of just mixing them up on my sponge. So I'm doing that so I get that sort of variegated look in my background. Now the reason I need to do 4 pages for this is because I'm going to be cutting into one of the pages and I'm going to see what's behind it. So I just wanted to make sure that it's sort of all blended together. And because, this is the page, sorry, excuse me, left-hand page is the one I'm going to see through the cut one. The one I'm working on now is the one page that's going to be cut, so I'm really not going to do much on that page. So I just wanted to look kind of pretty but not have anything on it in my journal. So that's just personal preference. You don't have to do this. You could maybe just paint it black if you wanted to skip this step, but I quite like, I've just been having fun doing these backgrounds with my stencils at the moment, so I was just having fun doing it. I'm just going in and drying that off, and then I've got some more on this sort of bluey page. So I love working in my Use It Up journal because I've always got interesting backgrounds to work with. I really like the way those sort of blues and pinks are peeking through the background or the leaves that I had. So this is my other Use It Up journal. It's my larger dilutions journal, and I'm just going in with my leftover green paint and painting it in. Trying to use up all my paint on my sponge, just making sure it's nice and clean. Unlike my glass mat, which you can see is a little bit grubby because it's been having a lot of work done on it recently. So this is the Tinkerbell image that I had. This is from a calendar that was 2014, I think, and it's been sitting in my stash for a long time. And it was funny because when I saw the video that James did, where he's drawn out a Tinkerbell almost exactly the same shape, I happened to come across the same image in my sort of collage box. So I thought, oh, I can try that because I've got this image here, so I can sort of blend it together. So I'm just fussy cutting out around it and sticking it on my page. Now the reason I'm using my small dilutions journal is it fits in beautifully. I think this image would be lost if I'd used it in my larger journal. So I'm just gluing it down onto the page. You can see because it is a magazine image, it is a little bit shiny. And I am putting a really thin cutting mat behind it. Now this is a cutting mat from IKEA. It's just one of their cheap kitchen mats. And I'm going around and cutting around the outside of my Tinkerbell. You noticed I got my ruler out before. In the middle of it, I left a centimetre gap. And that's where it's going to fold. So the top part of the Tinkerbell is going to fold out and the bottom part is, but the centre part is still attached to the page. And you'll see that when I fold it. So I'm just doing a quick score across this, so I'll fold up. So I'm folding the wings up and the legs down, so they'll sort of sit out of the page. Now when I actually cut this out, the background was quite strong in the calendar that I had, and by cutting it out of that red background it kind of lost its colour somewhat. So I'm going in with some paint markers just to colour it in and put some brightness back on the page again. And I'm using the colours that were on the image to begin with, so the blues and the greens. But what I really like about it, it's very serendipitous, is it sort of picks up the colours that were in the background of my Use It Up journal anyway. So now I'm just going in with my Stabilo All Pencil in blue, and I'll go back in with the red one as well because I noticed in the sketch of the Tinkerbell, it actually outlined in red. It's not outlined in a black, which sort of gives the image a little bit of a softer effect. So I was sort of copying that, which I really liked. It's certainly not something I would ever think about doing myself, I have to say. I have seen when James does his illustrations online, he uses a special pencil that's got red and blue on it. And I've sort of always wondered about it, but it sort of worked out really well. So I did go back in with black for her eyes though, because I thought it was a bit creepy with the red eyes. So this is how it sort of sits, and it pops out of the page when you sort of have it, which when you're looking directly down on it looks a bit interesting, but when you can sort of see it on the side, it gives you a really cool effect. So I was just playing around and thinking, I really like this, but it needs something. So I decided to go back into Pinterest to do my favourite and find a Tinkerbell quote. And one thing that I love about Pinterest is the interesting ways that you see the fonts or the quotes written out, and it's been giving me a really good guide for trying to write things in different ways. The other thing that I'm doing is going in and doing a little bit of mark making around this, because in the original image that I cut out, it had lots of sort of dots and sparkly bits around it, so I'm trying to replicate that. I'm not sure if I replicated it very well or not, but I had a go. To get the sort of little sparkly bits as well, I decided to use white and gold ink. So this is acrylic ink that dries, permanently dries afterwards. I do suggest you don't do this with your phone sitting there, because I did decorate my phone as well. I usually would have either done this beforehand or masked off my image, which I didn't do, but I don't mind that she's got some splots on her. Probably, I'm not sure if I do cover up the big spot on her wing, but I like that sort of she got some of those splitters on it, because it looks like those sort of magical things. So you can see the quote that I've got here, leave a little sparkle wherever you go, and just like writing the leave on an angle. I wouldn't have even thought about doing that if I didn't have that model there to work on, and just working out how the letters have the loops on them and so on. So just little bits like that are really great tips to think about how you're going to do your lettering. For those people who are able to do lettering beautifully, I really appreciate and admire your work, because I find it a struggle. I really have to think about it. So I really enjoy using models like this that can help me out. So I'm just using my paint pens to go in and do a little bit of doodling on them, putting a little bit of sparkle on my sparkle to make it look a little bit interesting. I decided that I needed to also outline my letters. Usually I just do a little bit of shadowing on them, but for this, because I wanted to pop it out from the background, I actually used quite a fine, we call it fine liner in Australia, a fine black pen that I could actually go around the thick white lettering, just to give it sort of that bolder look. And I really like it because it does pop it out from that background a little bit more than it had done in the past. So it doesn't take too long to do, and I would suggest, if you have got this, use a permanent marker or a permanent pen rather than one that's water activated. Not that I'm going to put any water over it anyway, but just so they tend to smudge less if you use a permanent marker. So here is my final piece. You can see her popping out of her page. So I've taken it from a few different angles so you can see that and see a bit of a close-up of the texture on the page. It was lots of fun to do, and as I said, it's directly inspired by JLB Creative, so I'll leave a link to his video in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.